application. It's really easy. You can download it from the same web page like JDK. When you want to create the project, is very simple. File, new project, and you can create project, Java project, Java application. It's our case. So you can create this Java application. Next, information where is stored. It looks similar to iClips. Okay. Then, if the project is created, you can click somewhere here in the project new JFrame 4 or JPanel. It's up to you what you want to do. JFrame, if you select JFrame 4, this is information about the name of class, project, source package, etc. Okay? Normally it contains main. This is some.
Can I ask something? We have to download now NetBeans?
No, I think that is not time for everything now.
Oh.
so
you just
I will show you, because exercises for the first part with SQLite and Log4j and how to use concurrency you got, with short presentation also about Log4j. Now I will show you that it's not very complicated how to create the application in NetBeans, and I think that on your own you will follow many different tutorials. Generally, really is new project. If a project is created like here, you can create in this project new JFrame 4. This is, for instance, new. Okay, when it's created, you can see sources and design. There is a palette with different components. So you can use just drag and drop to put into this window. Generally, you will also see this form here. You double click and you can see some elements of it. I use in this JMenu bar and tab pane for some panels, but when you click, right click here, you can customize code. This is my own code. Okay, when this is marked in gray, it means that this code was created automatically by NetBeans. But I edit because I don't want to see this, because it's not so easy in my application to show it. So I decide to check if it's active satellite, add something into JPanel. So this is just pure Java, but you should know how to modify something. So, okay. Of course, when the component is created and you want to have it, but you want to add to this tab pane later, then you can customize code first and put it, of course, drag and drop from here to other component. So these panels that will be used by third panel, many tabs, are stored here. When I double click here, this is the structure. So I can create it. This is ordering to the left, to right, center. So this is just this is button, labels, okay, and you can see here. You can change the name of the label. So when I can add something to the panel, I can modify the name. I can double click here and change the name. and automatically all the name of this reference is modified in many different places because it's variable name. Characteristic of it, properties for label are stored here. Horizontal left. Something that is marked in bold, it means that is my own modification. Label for. I can associate the label with the field. Text last updated. This is the text. Tooltip text, sometimes when you are over, another text will be shown. Okay? So this is, it is really not very complicated to use it. It's empty, so if I want to add something to this, I can add maybe panel to this, yes? I can put something here. This is panel, JPanel satellites, and this is new panel. I can modify this name, panel, maybe my, okay.
It's a little bit similar with Visual Studio when you program with C#. Something like this.
Yes. Okay, you can click here and you can set layout. Default is free design, but you can change to, for instance, grid layout. Okay, this is grid layout. Double click here. Where double click? Maybe, sorry, properties. How many columns, how many rows, horizontal gap and vertical gap. So we can change it. So it's not very complicated as you can see. Okay. What else? Okay. Now here, here. Over time I can switch to source. Okay, this is some modification. I can run it. My application doesn't look maybe. It isn't not finished. It is just a structure, so I can show you how you can. This is. I'm trying to use my own. So log4j, not another. This is application. There are some tabs here. Sometimes are available. Some I can edit here. I can switch to the tab. I can change language to English, and now the JFrame is finished first, and the second is created. This data contains from the file. I decided to create similar to log4j, the same like properties, structure with the different names. There are some icons also used for this. I can change the appearance. You know that per system there are different look and feels. Look and feels, are you familiar with that? How the structure is shown. So metal, I can switch to metal now. I can switch to Nimbus. It's up to you what is better to show. Okay. There are some errors in some different, sometimes it looks different in many. Okay. Look at fields. Let's switch to another here. So there are also some tabs. Channels, download database. It's empty still. So hard. File settings. Another appearance. It's default for Macintosh. So I also decided to put this cross-platform. Okay, this is for Macintosh. Also I added another J-frame, so we can add another J-frame, like here, it's another J-frame. I decided you can go over that is not active still, so I can switch it off. Okay, probably there is some error with order, so sorry for that, but probably the J option window is shown, but the order is not shown. So it's okay. I have to close it. Sorry. Now we can create another page. What was done? It is just experimental. That is, it is just HTML. Why I can switch to different language. It is the content is just HTML that is displayed because I'm using HTML editor for this.
You load a file, HTML file to...
It is stored in somewhere here. This is graphics, so there are some icons here. Let's suppose it. There are some frames. And so this is one frame, but when we go to this frame, this is that button that is close with this sign. Scroll and credentials, the editor panel, customize code. You can see how it works. Action performed. We'll see this dispose. So I want to dispose this J-frame. It means that yesterday I said that when you want to close the J-frame, my application uses many frames, J-frames. One is main and the other for credit transfer and things. Also, there are some elements. So dispose means not only close, but remove from memory everything that is associated with it. So I'm using dispose for that. What else? Okay, this is just how there are some attributes, settings. Okay, and I would like to show you the properties. Okay, give settings. It's good. Here's my file. You can see. It's for log4j. I decided to change log4j.in file, and this is some settings. The name in Polish, yes. File.exit comments in Polish. So well, different per countries. There are some images also. Setting extra description. That is Polish, another structure. So I'm using properties for that. Properties is really good because I can, using input stream, download all data, and then using the name of property, get value of it. And maybe in GUI or will show you how to use it, but maybe I will show you the how. Okay. Good. Okay, this is. I'm starting from well-known basic configurator configure because I want to have the use of it at once before finding the file with settings for log4j. So I'm using that. Then I want to set level log. Log is defined here. Where is log? Logger get logger. Dreambox will be the name for that. Initial log level is level.fatal. So I want only at the beginning to see information about fatal. Only that. This is not shown, but it is information for me that application is starting. Then I can create some file for settings. So this is a file object, and I'm trying to check if this file exists locally. If it exists, it means that I can get settings from this file. If not, I want to create this file. You can imagine a situation that your application starts first time, and you want to create default setting as a file and let user to do some modifications because it's just a text file. So file settings, create new file. File setting is a file object, so using create new file is created. The log default setting is my function. There are some settings defined here, settings, and these settings will be taken and stored into the file. Okay, here you can see how you can add icons to array list of icons. Also, new image icon, then class loader get system class loader .get class .get resources, because it will be stored later in jar file, so my file will start when the project starts. So I'm using here slash. So this is the structure. This is the structure of the location of some icons. This is the size, a different size. I created different directory per sizes. Give the icon, for instance. So it looks strange, but it works in that way. Class loader, get system class loader, get class. Then I'm on the top, and I can call get resource, and I can access to the resources. And the icon is shown properly. Okay. Properties language, get name in language. This function is used to know which text will be shown. Get name in language, string is just name of the element, menu, button, etc. If default language and properties language not equals null, I can return properties language get property, TMP, okay, get property unknown. TMP is the text that was delivered, and get property will return property for that, but if doesn't exist property for TMP, this text will be returned unknown as default, not null. Null is not a good idea. Unknown is much better. because I'm doing some operation on this, so this is string. But null, that is normally return, is not an object, so I cannot call something, and null pointer exception will be from. So it's much better to or empty text, something like that. Okay, save settings. What is interesting for this code also? Maybe in main.
Can I ask something for this? When you change the language from Poland to Polish to English, you have some main function that
I need to do this. And
how you know
you
have the same frame,
Yes.
you just change the variables, the fields of the...
No,
how you...
I'm finishing just, this is just GUI. So this dot dispose. Dispose means that I'm closing this current frame,
Right.
and I'm creating one.
You load
And
the...
change set visible true. The peg method is inside this constructor.
how you change the language? This is my question. How you change the language? So you load the new frame that
Yes,
you...
yes, it was shown here. I'm using the action, and okay, where is it? Step by step, yes. What is action performed? Just verb. Okay, here. So the way I decide to check this is radio check button item action performed. So action performed for this J radio button, English, or J Polish. Okay, there are two buttons. Can I show it? Settings, use first and second. Two check boxes. Okay, so if I press this one, nothing will happen because I'm trying to check if the GUI language equals narrow case English, return, nothing happened. If yes, I can log changing to English because it's action on the English. So I did this, but it was already checked, so nothing happens. So we are here.
So one question.
Doesn't matter. Then I can log information about it. Current properties. I'm changing properties. It's my property. Ribbons.line because I want to, after ending of the application, ask the user to save. It is not finished now, but it is. And then I'm calling a reset GUI function. The same is for changing to Polish. Okay? So I'm calling reset GUI, and reset GUI means that I'm on the current object. This I can call dispose. Dispose means that this frame must be finished, but the application is still working. Yes, because we're using a thread now for graphical user interface. So I'm still here. So I can create new graphical user interface and set visibility to true. Because the setting was changed, and the setting is in static field, so this object can access to static fields and will know what is current language. So we can go to constructor, and constructor. So good idea is to separate what should be static, main static method, and what should be stored in the object. Because if we put all information in static fields, we cannot do this operation. So object that represents JFrame can, in this case, be disposed, and a new one will be created. So, where is here? This is graphical user interface extend JFrame. So this is a class. And here you will see the constructor, where it was constructor. So it's the description, so it's properties, this one here. Okay, current properties, string TMP, current properties, get property, Dreambox language. It's null on empty or in our case English, so this GUI language is English. Okay, this set language properties, so I can set language properties will get properties from the file for English. This is another JFrame for credentials is created, but will be not shown. Set extra description, I'm adding something. There is, okay, there is for J3, and, okay, cursor, classes. This is also interesting, set location relative to when I want this to be put in the center of the screen. So I have to call this. Of course, I can replace null by the reference to another graphical element. So you can imagine that I have another J-frame, and I'm using here reference to another J-frame. So this element, that called set location relative to, will center in relation to another object. So also it's interesting element. What else? Okay, my action, I'm not using set default close operation. I will use, you can see here, just a moment, events, window close closing. You can see my exit. I'm using my exit for this. Window closing. This is the action. So I don't want to use, because in my exit, now it's just exit, but here I want to add asking a question for the user if really not sure, maybe there are some threads working. So with the question, okay. So we will start here. So general is not very complicated to create. The structure to remember: find new project. Then when you are in the project, you should decide what you want to do. You can create a different form. Okay. Find a project, Java application. Next, Java application, X, finish. So I'm here. I can remove it. I can create new JFrame form, finish. I can add something to this. Different elements. For instance, JText. Hope it will work. So you can go to source. Default structure is shown here. So it's main. Another approach, new JFrame is set visible. It works in that way. And in init component, it is generally stored here. You can see the pack method is called. There are some information stored. It is default for the netbins in that way. Okay, can remove it. It's nice. something to it and go here, design. For instance, string contains components with text. I'm looking for controls, buttons, check text box, true level. Okay, check text fields, put it here. You can change this frame. You can see that it's for this design, so I can go back to the default border layout. When I'm here, I can go to text field, so the properties. According to the resolution, it's not good shown here. Direction center, okay. I want to find layout, and I want to have no. So this field goes to the north. Then I want to go here to JPanel. Okay, and in that way you can create a calculator. Yes? So add JPanel here. Okay, JPanel. So edit JText field. When I'm clicking here, it's shown here. Okay, JPanel. Set layout, we can change to grid layout, for instance. Okay, we will add some buttons. When I double click here, it is JPanel. Only so I can put some buttons there also. Yes, many buttons here. I can change how many elements it is. Properties, columns, rows, so you can see. So edit, you can change this text 1, 2, 3, so design, 4, then then I can go here, J button, here, events, action performed. And I'm going back to the text, so I can write something here, system, out, print line, 0. You can also see here that set default close operation, so we can change it, but it's default operation per frame, so we can see properties. It's a standard layout, properties. So you can do some modifications here. I'm sorry, but it's not too many places on my screen to see everything. So if we have another resolution is much better. The best is to have 22 or more dimension, so size of monitor and better dimensions that I have now. Okay, change from properties, exit and close. I can change for height, exit and close, do nothing. So I can remove it. So, here, the value is custom code. We can modify the default code operation. I can remove it or add some values. Values from existing component. Okay, there is the text that will be displayed on JFrame.
Yeah, one question. When the custom code is override the exit or close,
Sorry?
it is override the function.
Yes.
Override. Yes.
You can remove it, yes. Default was there.
Do the same name. I have the custom code do the same.
So you can change it. Always on top. Height. Nothing. Also, you can go to this frame, properties, change order design, change not there, and maybe text it. You can go here, and maybe also it is interesting that it was added from the palette, so it is you cannot modify it here, but you can change to property. So you can remove something or modify it. Custom property, you can modify this. But default is better, but you can put something here, and you can see, of course, it doesn't make sense because it's not an element, but you can decide it's post pre-editing, post listener, post settings, so you can manage where this action will be performed. Default code, post init, so everything is created, and after that something will happen. Okay, custom creation, sometimes actually one or two modified. Here without this text. But I can remove it from the palette. All the time I can use default, so default code will be used on my previous selected. So the biggest problem sometimes is to see how to modify some element on your own when they were created here. You can add icon for some buttons. Sometimes it doesn't work so easy, so the best is just to create the array of these icons. And it's especially when you want to store it in a separate place than other components. I think that's all for the oh, just one more. I would like to show you how we can modify maybe this. So this going back to graphical user interface, because I was answering your question, but in main I would like to show what we can do in main. So it was default. Level is factorial. When the structure is created, I can do something like that. It's my modification for log4j. Because default name for log4j is log4j.properties, and location is in binary, but sometimes I'm not interested to do this, and I want to store in separate place. So I can use it. Just a moment. Input stream class loader, get system class loader, get class, get resources as stream, default properties, get property. So Dreambox, this is the location of a file. Dreambox.log4j.settings, and this my default location should be defined. Just a moment, proceed. Log4j settings is here. So this is property, and this is location. Starting from the beginning of the project. 3 subfolders, and this name is log4j.ini. So I cannot use just default, and I decided to change it and use my own property that describes location of the file. So this is here. So this gives the string that represents location. Get resources as a string, get access to this, but I'm using class loader like for icons. Class loader dot get system class loader dot get class. It will return. It will know that the location starts from the project beginnings, yes, and then I can get this resource as a string. So the resource on the disk as a string. This string is input string. Input string is used for all properties. So I can load properties. Input string. Reader. This is input string all the times. Input string is oriented on bytes, but I need to have reader because I want to switch to orientation on bytes. But I'm using UTF-8. I know because it's my own file. So I decided to inform the stream reader to create the reader for existing input stream that is UTF encoded. Then here, this is the reader associated with the resources. Log4j.ini in my location. I can use prop load. It is normal for properties to load properties with a file. And now I'm using log manager, it's Apache, yes, and I'm resetting configuration, and now I'm setting that property for log4j is my property that was loaded by me before. Okay, so this reset configuration will remove previously setting set by basic configurator and fatal level. I want to remove it. So now there is no configuration. If there is no configuration, I can configure property using this. So now log4j will use new settings. So when you want to use log4j, normally you want to have this file stored somewhere and you want to try to do something. But I decided to start from that because maybe this file doesn't exist, but I would like to be noticed at the beginnings also about different situations, especially fatal situations. So, but it's up to you. You don't need to do that. You don't need to check if the file exists and do something before. You can just be sure that if it's your code, this file must be existing, or if it doesn't exist, you can just store it and just use it. You can see that if a problem is with this file, problem with not only maybe the structure of this field is corrupted. So in this case, IO exception will be thrown, and I can inform user that cannot use new setting for log4j, and I'm still using basic configurator. I decided to use something that is better than nothing. Okay, configuration, maybe it's not interesting here. So you know how to use log4j, that you can modify some settings, that is good to use also for graphical applications. Okay, so I think that's all. Let's go to attention. Good. So now, how many minutes we have? Okay, 1 hour, very good. So I will show you now a short presentation about Android Studio also, and some exercises are available on the web page. So we can decide if you want to continue and work on log4j, SQLite, and concurrency, or maybe you want to practice Android now, or maybe you want to do other things. It's just up to you. But I have to switch to my presentation. Okay, it will be just short information about Android, so you know that it's open source, that the core of Android is the base of it, it's Linux, and after this layer that is Java virtual machine, so all application can both use elements of Linux and of course especially for graphics, Java virtual machine. Generally, we can distinguish 4 elements, like Linux kernel, set of some libraries for Linux, of course, Android runtime, so Java virtual machine, and framework with some extras. This is just a structure of this. Our application works here, and the most important to know is that your application that is created in that level is, there's no differences between your application and application created by Google or another vendor. Okay? Linux kernel is especially for management of processes, memory, and files. Okay? So we can use some drivers to access camera, keyboard, keypad, display, etc. Okay, the libraries in C, C++, Linux libraries generally are for engine WebKit, is for its internal browser. With a standard library for C language. SQLite database, SQLite, as I said, is the most useful on Android and iOS also. Libraries to play and record audio, video, and for telecommunication, some libraries, and Android libraries, Java-based libraries for graphics, especially because Swing is not implemented, but it is a special library created, managed, developed by Google and the group that is led by Google. And there are some libraries like Android.app, access to the application model, Android content. We can facilitate some content, access to some content. Android database, especially for SQLite, OpenGL, Android.OpenGL, a Java interface for OpenGL. Another Android.os. This is communication for processes. You can access to it from Java, also text, Android view, widget, WebKit. So WebKit is, there are some libraries in C, but using Android WebKit we can access to this from our application. Functionality of some browser is also needed in many cases. The virtual machine, as I said yesterday, it's not Java standard edition nor micro edition. It's a special Java virtual machine designed, optimized by Google and the group for Android. So if you want to create some application, also you can see that that is not class extension but DEX extension. So how to say, you cannot run classes, and there is also some agreement, some license of Oracle, how we can use it. So Google decided to create also for that purpose to maybe not ignore, to not keep the license provided by Oracle. So now we can, on Android, we don't need to read licenses for Java platform managed by Oracle, but only for Android. Okay. In another level application framework, you can see there are some services that can be used from our application, like Activity Manager for controls of our applications, start, finish. Okay. Content providers can publish some data, we can get access to some data. View system views different windows, different screens. Okay, and when you want to start your first application, you can go to my web page. And my web page is very simple, java4.orzechowski.it. So step by step, how you can start your first application. Okay, so the most important now is to download Android Studio. So please start from the first. Forward. Okay. You finish it? You know. Yes. Yes. Okay. So we can concentrate maybe on graphics. So we can not start. Okay, so first part is just to download Android. So first part. Good. So this is web page, and now. It is just a short explanation for this exercise. So now you will see main activity.java5. Yes, and this is the structure of this time the location is, you can see, app is also main Java. This is the, our name conf, for example, of mine that was added. Hello world, because it's the name of the application, and main activity .java is the file that was created. And in this file, you will see onCreate method that will be responsible for starting our application.
Can I ask something? How can I fix the gradual problem? It says that fix my inversion and sync project file, something like this. With base. Ah, okay.
I don't know what happens.
Just when I create a new project, it says that it's old version.
Okay. Maybe something was downloaded now and it's new version and it was not updated. Maybe there is a problem with Android virtual device that was created on the previous version. I don't know. Okay, so this is main file that is important for us. You can see package imports, main activity, onCreate methods. As I said, it's used when we are starting this activity. Next, the most important file is in layout. Here you will see activity underscore main.xml, and in this file you will see the structure, and we can modify it in, and we will do it later. But this, the most important is the view, how the application will look like. Okay. So now we can, or later, we can do like in NetBeans, put some components into this window, so we can use drag and drop and put element, or we can on our own, like in this exercise later, we can modify the XML settings on our own. So it's similar to the NetBeans, to the application, source code and design. So we can see that. It's activity main XML file. Okay, two important files. And next, you can see also, when you click on the structure, you can see also entering manifest XML information about structure of our application. Location is shown here, so if you put on this tab, Hello World app as a main, you will see this file also. Okay. The most important here, this is the structure taken from the Android Studio, and maybe this is important. So any components that is used in our application is described there. Okay? So you can see this is icon, mid-map. You can see this directory. It's in Android Studio, so all graphics and all images will be stored in this place. As you can guess, all labels will be stored in the second line, so in other directories, string. So you can store the data, we can create an application for many languages, etc. First activity, so what will happen? So activity type is to specify the activity. What will happen in the case of our application? So you can see okay, so it means that this is first action that will happen, and when we start it, the application will run. Okay. So the application is running. Another thing, we want to click on some icon and we want to start this application. So maybe if we click on this icon, something should happen before our application will appear in the window. So we can modify the behavior, but this part here describes how our application works. I think that is enough. I don't want to go deeply into that because maybe it's too complicated for the first time, but you can imagine that there are two elements that describe action for the Android application. Of course, now we have activity, so situation associated with the action of the application, and you can put also some description for services, receiver, and content providers. You will get access because I said that there are providers delivered by Android, and you can use them also. So you can also put part to define what we want to use in this XML setting. So generally, imagine that anything that describes action on our application is stored in this Android manifest XML in our project. So project is application, and we can put here some data. It is created automatically, but we should know that this file is really important because it describes all these things. Okay. Next, the rest, the directory is for resources, so drawable. Here you can store some data, some elements and icons. Especially you can see that there is no dash and density. We know that we can create application not for one smartphone, but for many smartphones. So you will see different directories for different densities per different smartphones. Maybe the same, but we can change size of this, we can change density. It's because the biggest problem sometimes in Android is that this system is really popular for many different smartphones. So for iOS it's easier because it's only one, maybe not now one, but many years ago it was one version with one density. But now there's a problem because there are many densities, and we should think how our application will look like on many different densities. So definition could be stored of some images in this place. So it's not very easy. Okay. Layout. We know what is. Okay, we know there's a structure. Bitmap for some icons. Okay, and values. So we can use values and strings. We will modify some strings, put in other strings. So our application can use strings. Before this, we'll access the string.xml file and look for it. It is like a definition of a final string field. Okay, so we can put it here because there are some labels. Because it's a graphical application, so you can put some labels just into this file. Create the definition for that. General, I said about these components. Manifest resources. Later in the second part of the application, you can you will modify, you will create another project, and you will use different views, because view is just a screen that is shown to users. But after some actions, we have to replace one view by another. Okay, so views is these are elements, and we can define it. How to do that? It's shown step by step in the exercise. So maybe much better is just first time to run it, okay? And when you did it, you can maybe later understand these elements. Okay, so please try to start the application, first one, and then you can modify it and go to another. Okay?